Hi everyone, this is Stefana Muller, your product manager for CA Service Virtualization. Today I'm going to go through our deep dive into CA Service Virtualization 8.0. The agenda for today is to go through some of the main features that we released in 8.0, and I'm also going to demonstrate for you some of the features that we introduced in 8.01 because that's the build that I'm running on my machine. Just keep in mind we'll also have an 8.02 coming out soon with some cool new features. I'll try to highlight where those are as well. So the agenda for today is to first focus on our new dev test portal. I'll give you a brief overview of what that is, how you use it, what the new features are, and why we're doing it. Then I'm going to go deep dive into our server-side recorder, and we'll do a demonstration recording of our old Lisa Bank application. And then after that, I'm going to go and edit that virtual service image, and I'll show you how we manage in that service image editor now, the new service image editor that's in the dev test portal. Last but not least, I'll go through 3 areas just in a slide deck. I'm going to cover what learning mode is and why that's important. I'll do a basic overview of opaque data processing, which I know a lot of you have lots of interest in. And last but not least, I'll cover some of the new protocol support we've added in this release. Okay, the one thing I wanted to present before I get into the details of the release is the innovation we've introduced to the market in service virtualization throughout the years. As you know, we have founded this technology in 2007 as ITKO, and it's grown since then significantly. I would say that 8.0 is the #1 release we've had so far. Despite all the technology we've implemented over the years, 8.0 is the most feature-rich, covering the most dynamic change for our customer base and the people who need service virtualization to remove constraints in their environments. So just to point out, in 8.0 we have 4 new patents. Matter of fact, 21 overall patents awarded and 28 filed. And on opaque data processing, which here is identified as opaque payload processing, we've actually identified 3 additional patents to file, and you'll see those enhancements come into the product in the future. So like I said, I'm going to go through the dev test portal first, and then I'm going to go into each of the features. And instead of doing a bunch of slides, which I have here, I'm going to bring up my demonstration. So excuse me as I bring up my browser. Okay, this is my dev test portal, and many of you know of the workstation, or probably have used the workstation in the past. Well, I would hope you'd used a workstation, otherwise this demonstration is not going to give you much insight. But the workstation looks like this. And this is our old workstation. You'd come in here, and it's, it looks pretty much like an IDE environment, and it's very functional, and I want to keep that in mind. It's got tons of functionality, it's got tons of use cases that are all covered in this one UI. And the one thing that is difficult is that it is not easy for the new user to just grab this existing user interface and figure out how to get started. So instead of trying to build into the older framework, we decided to move to a new framework, and we're on Angular now, and we're going to be building our UI in this web-based model moving forward. I'm going to actually log into our new UI here. And remember, I'm running Workstation and the dev test portal on the same machine. They're accessing the same files. So in this release of 8.0, you still have access to Workstation, and dev test portal at the same time. As we move forward, we'll probably change that as we continue to add new features to the dev test portal. I also want to clarify for anyone who had this question, the dev test portal is not comprehensive. What we did in this release is we took the most used workflows that were in Workstation and probably the most difficult for newer users, and we moved those over, or not moved those, we duplicated them in the dev test portal. And while we duplicated them, we re-engineered them, we re-architected them, we worked on usability, and we had our customers, you and our testers, come in and show us whether or not what we've designed will work for them. So this was a really interactive process. So back to the UI here, I'm on my landing page and you can see here the home screen, kind of a cool screen. You've got an ability to move things around here. You've got an ability to remove certain screens if you'd like, if it doesn't apply to you. You could, in the future, I would imagine we'd add a way to add things in here. You have the ability to change the visual here. This all came into 8.01, so you can change and add points of interest back if you'd like or whatnot. In addition to that, you have some abilities that help you with preferences here. We've added a preference to enable help for first-time users. So the help for first-time users is actually on by default. I just turned it off so I can share with you. I turned it back on and I'll show you how it works. You can see here on the main screen we have some getting started text that brings you right to the content on how to do certain things. We have some quick links in actually creating a virtual service or so on, and it brings you to our community and how to report an issue if you have an issue. It also has some statistics that are very valuable to the user who's walking in here. You can see that I've deployed 5 virtual services. I recorded 11 all today, and I have a total transaction count of 1122. Obviously, these numbers go up significantly when you have multiple users using the system and they're using multiple virtual services. But again, it's really valuable to see how the usage is going in your application and see what other people have done. Okay, so that's the home screen. On the left navigation here, I wanted to point out a few things. There is an expand and contract ability here where you can actually make the screen wider, and that really helps, especially when you're looking at the service image editor and you're trying to find a specific request and response, and it's difficult to see because there's a lot of text on the screen. So we made it very web-enabled where things can hide and you can actually see a full screen. Again, much of this feedback came from our customers who felt that they weren't able to see exactly what they wanted to see at once. We have a few different menus on this left navigation, and I wanted to point this out. The Dev Test portal includes multiple products at CA Technologies. I'm demonstrating today CA Service Virtualization, but there are other products in here as well. One is CA Application Test, which you can find under the Monitor area, or you can find under the Create area, create an API test. We also have API tests in the Manage area, as you can see here. In addition to that, we have CA Application Insight over here. This used to be called CA Pathfinder, and this product now has a full new user interface within this same console. So if you're a user of one of these tools or more of these tools, you're going to the same console now to see everything. Again, all these tools work well together, so they made sense to be in the same user interface. In addition to that, we have some quick links over to some of the older UIs that we haven't converted over yet, so that makes it easier for you to jump over to that functionality right from here. Okay, now on to the meat of this presentation today, and that's how to virtualize a website and what we've changed in this product over the past few releases. I wanted to touch on one thing. Many of you might have heard of VS Easy, or the ability to virtualize create a virtual service in very quick fashion using request-response pairs. Well, that used to be in the server console, now called the Dev Test console, which likely will go away over time. So what we did in 8.01 release is we moved that over here and we call it Virtualize using RR pairs. And if you open it up, it looks almost exactly like VS Easy looked in the old UI. However, it's ported over and it's much easier for us to expand now on this technology. So as you can see here, you have the pretty much same screens, but eventually we're going to be able to iterate on this a lot more quickly in the new user interface format. So service name, I'm just going to do a few things here to create a virtual service. This is the quickest and easiest way to do it. The service name, I'm going to say hello to, and I'm going to change my group to VS Easy because I want everyone to know that I came from the VS Easy app. I select my protocol as HTTP, and I'm actually going to grab a bunch of request-response pairs that I have on my desktop. Excuse me, forgot where I had put those. Okay, here's my demo request response pairs. They're from my ATM. I'm going to grab a few of them and I'm going to click open. Nope, I did not click open. One more time. Okay, as you can see, they populated below, and I'm going to click create and deploy. And what it does is it takes all those request response pairs, bundles them up, and deploys them into a virtual service very quickly for me. In addition to that, it chooses a port for me, it chooses the location of where it's going to run, and it tells me, it's right up here, Stefana. If you need it, you can copy and paste it, this URL here, and you can use that virtual service. Now you can share that with anyone who may need to consume that virtual service, now that I've created this quick virtual service online. Ideally, I would like to see this area in the product enhanced to be more like our VAPI product. If you haven't seen VAPI, you can go to your browser right now, go to vapi.ca.com, Virtual API it stands for. And the VAPI product is a free offering that allows you to create a virtual API using request response pairs or just copying and pasting things in. So I just wanted to put a little plug in there for that. Go take a look at it. It's free, it's easy to use, and you can plug into your GitHub account so you don't have to create a new account or anything. We'll do another demo on that at another time. So over back to my dev test portal, I just showed you how to virtualize using RR pairs, but how do I prove that I actually just did that? I'm going to open the server console. And if most of you know, it's at 1507. Oh, sorry, no, it's 1505. Somebody here needs to correct me every once in a while. So here you go. We're going to go into the dev test console. I'm going to log in. I'm going to go to server console. And on the left navigation, I'm going to select my VSC. That's where I deployed the virtual service to. And once it uploads here, you can see that I deployed Hello 2, that's the virtual service. By the way, I did not take down my VSC from earlier today when I was doing other demos, so you'll see a bunch of other demos in here. Here's my opaque data processing demo, it's right there. In any case, we have Hello 2 running. You can see it's running. You can actually download the archive of the file if you wanted to edit it. So there's a question from a few people of, well, VSC is great, but I can't edit the virtual service after I deploy it. Yeah, the intent of VSC was to deploy quickly and enable someone to get a virtual service in what I'd like to call a deploy and kill process, right? You're going to deploy, use it, and kill it because it's not something that you're going to need to maintain. Now, obviously, there's need to do more with that, and if there is, you can download it from here. It will download the MAR, and you can explode it back into your project folder and then edit it as you see fit, just like you would any other virtual service image and model. Okay, I'm going to go back to the dev test portal now. Now that I proved to you that we moved VSC over, I'm going to go into virtualizing a website. And this is something we introduced in 8.0. And remember I said I had these new help screens that would pop up? Well, here you go. The new help screens have popped up. And you can see a few of the things that it's pointing out might be things you haven't noticed, but the ability to list your existing recordings. And if I do that, you can see I have a few things that I already recorded today. And it's saying, hey, look, she's got hello, she's got my bank one. Maybe I want to start from there. Or maybe I want to finish that recording that someone else started for me. The other option here is the ability to use SSL. We have some really easy ways for you to select the SSL parameters here and enter them in. I'm actually going to shut off the help right now because, hey, I'm not a new user, so I don't need it. You could shut that off in your preferences as well. Like I said before, it's up here in preferences on the right side of your screen. Okay, so let's talk about a regular recording here, something very simple. I'm going to record my banking application. I'm going to call it Bank 20. And just as a note, as you type into the fields here, things get error checked. So when I was typing, it was checking the VSC that I'm deploying to or recording on. It's saying, hey VSC, do you have an application or a virtual service out there running called Bank 20? And if you do, let me know and I'll error check. Right now I don't, so that's good news. In addition to that, it's allowing you to add a description. Bank 2.0, I'm going to write here Stefana's Bank. And the key point here is that the description is going to get even more important as we enhance this product even further. The description eventually will be searchable and modifiable by other users, taggable and so on. So I do recommend you use that field starting today so that you can inherit the new functionality that likely will be coming out in the next release. I also want to point out on the right side of this screen a few things happened. The status changed to draft. So if you're a geek like me and wants to see the recording ID, you can actually grab that recording ID and navigate right to the recording. You can see the draft status and the port that was selected, 2343 was selected for me. What the VSC did was it found that Bank 20 wasn't running, it found an open port and selected it. Now in our existing UI, and I'm going to bring that up because not many people have seen it, you have to start the VSC recorder here. You have to fill in a bunch of fields. You might not know what to fill in, and you have to select your protocol. We didn't have to do that. And there's about 10 steps here, and you'd have to figure out what port is free. What if 8001 wasn't free, and so on. So as you can see, the new recorder is much more savvy, easier for you to see things that you're looking for. Okay. Keep going back to this recording here. Again, it's a 3-step process, very simple, easy to use. The point is that you don't have to be an expert to use the recorder. You just need to have access to your live system. So the visual helps you understand where things are located. Now I know that my back-end system is running on localhost 8080. So when I click that, it actually checks to see if it can connect to localhost 8080. And it doesn't allow me to start the recording until I confirm that. That is very cool, right? Because as you can see here, it not only confirmed that, but it lit up in color your recording process. So it shows you, hey, my client's ready, my recorder's ready, my server's ready, you're ready to go. Again, making it much more simple for people who have not used this technology before and understanding where their recorder is sitting on the wire. If you're looking here, the client I'm going to be using is my Java client, which is right here. And this is, this is a front end to my kiosk service. And again, an older application, but that's typically what you are recording in a virtual service. You're trying to virtualize away the old back end, right? So there you go. You've got my kiosk front end, and that's what that client is. The second step you see here is my virtual service recorder, and that's the thing that's sitting on the wire recording, and it's at port 2343. So the point here is I want my client to point to port 2343 first, and then the recorder will automatically go to my back-end service. Got it? That makes sense, right? So I'm going to start the recording, make it simple for us so we can move forward quickly. I'm going to open up my bank. I'm going to do a few things here so you can see. 2343 is the bank, is where my pass-through is. So I'm going to repoint myself to 2343. So I'm repointing my client app there so that I can actually log in to the bank, so that I could actually hit that recorder. I'm actually going to select my name here because I created my own account before. And I'm going to insert the card. And now I log in. As I do some of these transactions, you're going to see something happen on the right side of the screen. So keep your eye open here in the orange icon. That's the transaction count, and that's going to increase as I do certain things like deposit money into my checking account, take a balance. I'm going to go back and just do a statement. I'm going to go back again and do one more deposit into my account because I'm being greedy today. All right, I'm all done, And now to make it simple, remember the point is when you're recording a virtual service in a live system specifically, you want to do as many transactions as you can. If you do have a test case that you can run against this live system, you do that. You want to get as much as you can initially. Now, for this demonstration, I'm just doing some manual hitting so you can see what's going on. I'm going to stop the recording now. And as I stop the recording, you can see that the status stopped and my transaction count got to 6. So I can actually expand here and see more about that transaction count if I wanted to. I can actually go and see the request data if I really needed to see it. But at this point, because I don't need to troubleshoot, I'm going to move forward. And what it does here in the configure step, which is the second step in the process, it says to Stefana, hey, Miss Recorder, I found that you were using SOAP. Was there another data protocol you wanted us to add to this virtual service? And I'm going to say no, but maybe you have REST in there too that wasn't detected automatically. You might want to pull that over. You just select it and use the arrow buttons to pull it over. And also, what if your response was in JSON? You might want to pull that over too. So you have that ability here. And as we continue to move more transactions or more protocols over to this new console, you'll see more and more in this list depending on the recording. The one thing I am going to do on this screen is click this button here to update the transaction view. I'm going to say apply the web services SOAP data protocol and translate that for me so I can actually read it. You can see here the get new token. You can see the request data and arguments. Now, I want to point this out because not many people realize I'm still in the recording process. If I need to go back and continue recording, I can. I can click the previous button or I can go back to the record step. And that's key, especially if I'm going to stop here and maybe come back later, or I forgot something and I realized, ooh, I forgot to add a withdrawal. I didn't withdraw money. My goodness, I have no money. So that would be another reason you might want to go back. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to move forward and I'm going to click Next. And as I click Next, you can see there's multiple options here. And one of my favorite options is to save and deploy. And I'm actually going to choose my Bank V6 project because you can check which project you want to save it into. And I'm going to deploy it right away. So again, very cool. I can save and close, save and deploy, or save and edit. And that's a 3-step process. This is not 100 steps. I did walk through all the fun features, but if you wanted to get through this in about 30 seconds, you could. I click the Save button, and once I click the Save button, it actually goes and deploys that virtual service onto my VSC. It is now ready for use, and it's running on the same port that I had pointed to. And I want to point out to you now in the dev test console, if I go back in there, you can see my bank 20 is running. I'm going to actually hit that virtual service now with my kiosk. So remember, my kiosk was pointing to the recorder at 2343, and now I'm going to have my kiosk hit 2343 again, but now it's a virtual service. It's not the recorder anymore. I'm going to log in, and as you can see, as I log in, the transaction count over here will go up. So that means I'm really hitting the virtual service. I'm not hitting the live service. And I'll prove that to you because I'm going to deposit the money, and it works. I'm going to do another transaction. And let me do a transaction that doesn't work, right? We never recorded the transaction of withdrawal, and it errors out, right? Because I never recorded that. So now you know that my virtual service is actually responding and not some live service. Okay, so that is the demonstration of the recording and deploy. The next step that I wanted to show you is the ability for you to edit that virtual service. So, hey, I forgot something, or I didn't do what I expected to do. I'm going to go and open up Bank 20. We're going to look at our virtual service image. We're going to take a look at all the different functionality that we've recorded, and maybe we're going to edit it a bit or find something. So as you can see here, in my Bank 20, I have a bunch of different stateless signatures. These are the specific transactions that were captured. And then I have my specifics. So you remember I deposited 2 different sets of amounts of money. I've deposited 20, and I think it was 10. Yep, 10. So you can see here I have 2 specifics with the same signature. And that's important because I don't know if you noticed, when I went and tested this, I can actually deposit any amount of money because it's indicated as a magic string. So this $10 is actually a magic string. When my virtual service sees $10, it's going to return 10. If it sees 40, it's going to return 40, and that makes it very simple for you to auto respond with a variable, if you would, and that's what a magic string is. I will get into magic strings in another demo, but that's just one of the functionalities that you have existing in the product today. You also have the ability to drag and drop things on your left navigation, and my favorite is you can add a note. This is annotations. This is searchable. This is something you can say, Stefana added this today, March 4th. And you might need to add that for somebody else to come in and look at or for you to find. Now, many of you know, if you're using virtual services today, that your transaction count is not going to be 5 stateless signatures. You're likely to have over 1,000. And if that's the case, these annotations are key because then I can go in and search for Stefana. And you can see that in my signature name, it found that specific signature. And I'm already clicked on it, so it didn't go and search for it. There you go. I click on the search text, and it automatically brings it up. This helps a lot, especially if you're looking for response data, because that's so difficult to find a specific thing in the response data. Say in the response data, I'm looking for the term account, and I needed to change that or needed to look for an account ID. I can actually click on where I'm looking for, and it will show me, oh, in this stateless signature, you actually have the operation of deposit money, and account is in there, is in the response. So I'm going to click on deposit money, and it opens up that specific transaction, and it highlights the text. How much simpler is that? That's just amazingly simple to find out of a ton of data, the specific data you are looking for. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a few other things here. You have the ability to change deposit money to say deposit money 23. That's another annotation you can search. But remember, it doesn't change the argument here. It doesn't change that operation that's selected, and that helps because you don't want somebody to modify this operation at all or not be able to find what the original operation was. You have the ability to come in here and also add by request response pairs. So say the fact that you finished your recording and you went into the image and you wanted to add request response pairs because you forgot a few transactions, or maybe there are a few transactions that are not on your live system yet, which is likely the case, right? Because you're developing. So in that case, you can go and click import request response pairs. And I'm actually hopefully in the folder I need to be in, and I'm going to check out these request response pairs. Click open, and it's going to populate them up. It takes a minute because those pairs are out on my Dropbox, and I'm going to click done. So how cool is that? It found those request response pairs and it applied them. Now I can go in and take a look at these specific RR pairs. Now these RR pairs do not have specific arguments in them, so they're probably bad examples, but if you did have a nice clean request response pair with arguments and operations, you'd see them clean. Okay. So we talked about a bunch of things so far. The last thing, or the second to last thing I want to share with you is a find a match by request. So if I click find a match by request, imagine the case where you have 1,000 transactions and you're trying to find a specific request and what the matching response would be. How will my virtual service image respond to this request? If you have the request, you can paste it right here, or I can select my request file. Remember I did this before. I'm going to use that simple one, and it's going to find the match. So it actually found an exact match to that request, both a signature and a specific, and it said, here you go, it's right here. So I didn't have to go and scroll through thousands of signatures to find what I was looking for. Again, the point here is to make it very easy to use. A few other things I wanted to point out to you is that you can right-click on these items on the left navigation so you can deploy your virtual service after you completed editing it. You can download the MAR file if you want to share it with someone else, or you may delete it if you have that permission. Okay, the other thing I wanted to share with you actually is the ability to see a virtual service that is stateful. So this is a conversation. Conversational virtual services are, very complex in some sense, but they keep the state throughout the throughout the transaction, so we can play back with state in mind. Now, in the recording I did not capture stateful virtual services or a conversation, but here I have an example of one. What we did in this release is we made the virtual service the image very simple to read. If you have a conversation, you can go and choose the outline. A lot of the pain point with these images could be that the service image has a very large conversation that could be very tall or very wide. So using this outline option, you can actually find what you're looking for. Okay, you also have a very similar view that you do have to your stateful signatures. If I were to scroll down here, you can see, stateless signatures, you can see your request data arguments and your response data right in the same view as you click on something above. Again, we tried to make it very consistent for our users. Okay, so I demonstrated for you the dev test portal. I went through virtualizing using RR pairs, virtualizing with a website through the HTTP recorder, some of the how to access the files that you have existing, your virtual services that you have existing, and edit them. I also showed you how to deploy things and what it looks like once it's deployed. So I hope that was valuable to you. There's a lot more functionality in this UI, but I'm going to skip back to my presentation now and finish up the features in 8.0 so we can get through the main functionality. And one moment as I find my PowerPoint. There we go. Okay, I'm going to actually skip ahead since I got through all those slides with a live demo instead. And I'm going to show you two things that I think are important that we didn't mention in the demo. One is learning mode. Now, this is really key, right? This is a key differentiator, and it will change how you use our product. So if you knew that our virtual service image captures all the transactions, the requests and responses, the model file actually tells the virtual service how to respond. It says where to match, where to go, what to respond with. It's kind of grabbing that data and doing the responding. The model file kind of is a map of sorts or directional. So with the model, today we have 9 different service ways to run a virtual service. It could be the ability to pass through to a live service, the ability to record the changes that happened on the live service. What we introduced in 8.0 are 3 things. If you have a client, you have your recorder, and you have your virtual service, and you have your back-end system, which is your live system. With 8.0, you can actually have the client trigger the virtual service. If the virtual service doesn't have a response, it will pass through to the live service. That's very cool. So you can kind of work with a live service and a virtual service at the same time. And if you have the client that's hitting the virtual service and the virtual service doesn't have a response, it hits that live service and the live service does have a response, you could automatically learn that response. So now your virtual service learns the response from the live service. I think that's really cool. That takes 100 steps out of a human hands and completely does that learning for you. In addition to that, we have another functionality, not just the pass-through model. We have the ability for the client to go directly to the live service and then bounce back to the virtual service if the live service does not have the response. That's really another cool way of working with both live services and virtual services. Again, that's called failover mode, not pass-through. So again, learning mode is the ability to learn what's in a live system. It helps you automatically compare responses between the virtual service and a live system, and pretty much keeps you faithful to knowing that that live service and the virtual service are exactly the same. This is really helpful if you have a live system you're building to and you need to give a virtual service to another team, and you want to make sure that over time you're hitting that virtual service and you're giving them updates. I put some screenshots in here just to keep in mind your old virtual services that you've used in the past in older versions of SV will not use learning mode, but you can modify the model to include learning mode, or you can just re-record them in the 8.0 product. Otherwise, you still get the same functionality. You can still run those virtual services. They just won't have the learning mode option. Okay, opaque data processing is the last function that I wanted to go through, and I wanted to keep in mind I'm going to do a quick high-level overview, and there is a deep dive into this product feature in another recording. So the deep dive will be posted out on YouTube, and I'll share that with all of you as well. Right now, we're going to go through what opaque data processing is, and I'm going to give you, like I said, that high level. The ability for us to understand all protocols, to be able to do a match and respond to a virtual service, in a virtual service, is tremendous. That's a very difficult thing to do. Right now, we have the data protocol handler that does that translation. It says, hey, I've seen this message before. It's SOAP, or it's a web service, or it's, you know, this, it's REST. Well, it's great if we know the protocol, but what if we don't? What if someone built this on their own? What if it's binary data and we have no idea what protocol it's using, where the operation is, where the arguments, and what syntax it's in? All of that applies in many situations. So with opaque data processing, we can actually figure out how to match requests and provide responses without needing to know the details about the protocol. How cool is that? We actually do some very interesting thing with genome sequencing, where we're using that same algorithm called Needleman-Noosh. And the Needleman algorithm allows us to do that quick discovery of that byte level pattern. So instead of matching on an argument and an operation, we're actually matching on the bytes, obviously making it a lot more accurate. It virtualizes, again, a much wider range of protocols without needing us to do that translation, and it's very quick and, of course, accurate. We've done some things within that product that adds something called entropy weighting that helps our algorithm get smarter. So it will say, hey, I've seen this term 6 times. It must be less change. It could be an operation, and it will learn that operation. I wanted to keep them, just give a good note out to the team who built this out in Swinburne University in Australia. A great student of, a PhD student actually, her name is Miao Du, came up with this technology. And just how cool is it that she came up with this technology from knowing data science only and not understanding our business and service virtualization. So again, applying across different fields, this technology was very cool for us, and our engineering team thought it was magic initially, but it really is true. Okay, and last but not least, I wanted to go through some of the additional protocol support that we added in this release. Now, I mentioned to you that the dev test portal is where I'm going to be adding the majority of my new features, and I didn't do that with certain things like the support for Waddle, RAML, and updates to Swift and REST. We did not add to the dev test portal. We added it to Workstation. And why is that? Because it was quicker, right? We wanted to get these things out, and then as we learn to develop quickly in Angular, we'll be pulling those things over to the new UI. Okay, and this is the point where I end my presentation because we did Q&A live earlier. So thank you so much for listening today. If you do have any questions, you can always reach out to me, Stefana Muller, or respond to this thread here in the recording. Thanks so much. Have a good day.